The Titanic. On board. A masterpiece destined for eternal rest. At least, that's what the official reports say. 3 peacocks made of rubies, 1,000 precious stones. The Great Omar. The most expensive book in human history. The whole world believes it rests at a depth of 4 kilometers. But the world is wrong. Real treasures rarely go to the bottom. They simply change owners. My name is Jack, and I will tell you how legends really disappear. Because that night, I wasn't there as a witness. This story began in foggy London, a week before the disaster. London. Soho. Old Weinreit's basement workshop. The finest forger in the city. On a table, cluttered with blueprints from the Sotheran auction house, lies the Great Omar. Or rather, its perfect double. Oak board, covered with old leather. The weight is precise, gram for gram, identical to the real book. Weinreit ran his fingers over the cover. Through the burlap, a clerk won't notice a thing. To the world, the book will sink. But what arrives in New York will be nothing but a scorched dummy. I placed 100 pounds in gold on the table. The old man pocketed the money, but his gaze lingered on me. You know that Sangorsky, the man who created this masterpiece, drowned at sea? Just weeks after finishing it. They say the book is cursed. We believe in craftsmanship, Weinreit, not curses. However, the real challenge lay in the notes of Thomas Rich. His hands trembled as he pointed to the binding diagrams. This isn't just a binding, it's a jeweler's trap. Dark goatskin, 1,000 precious stones, Burmese rubies, the color of pigeon's blood, Colombian emeralds. Every stone is set on silver pins. If you pull by force, you'll split them. And the box? Max asked. Oak and iron. But there's a spring clamp inside. Rich tapped the diagram. If opened incorrectly, the mechanism will crush the book. Press the pin. Under the brass plate. First, last night in Southampton. The silence of room 12. On the bed. Our arsenal. Tungsten steel picks, scalpels, and a fake seal. This is our last job, Jack, Max said, leaning by the window with a cigar. Either a farm in Devon or a hotel in Monte Carlo. Or we drown with the most expensive ship in the world. April 10th, noon. We boarded the Titanic among the first-class crowd. Tuxedos, top hats, the scent of expensive perfume. We were indistinguishable from the millionaires. I watched as porters carried our box to the mail hold on G deck. There, under 2 locks and red wax, our future waited. 1,000 rubies that no one guarded. A book that, in 4 days, had to disappear. April 14th, 11 in the evening. The corridors of the lower decks are empty. Passengers on the upper decks drink champagne and play cards. No one looks down, where it smells of fuel oil and damp paper. Max and I descend steel stairs lower and lower. F deck, G deck. The air becomes heavier, colder. Here you can already hear the rumble of engines. The heart of the Titanic beating somewhere very close. The mail hold is a labyrinth of wooden shelves, sacks of letters and boxes. The light is dim. Electric lamps barely penetrate the dust. Max shines the lantern. Box number 405. Should be somewhere here. We walk between the shelves. My hands sweat, though it's cold here. I hear each of my steps. Boots ring against the metal floor, too loudly. And suddenly, I see it. Oak box with brass corners. On the lid, red wax seal, Sotheran & Co. In the lantern light, it looks like an altar. That's it, Max whispers. I take out the tools, picks made of tungsten steel, cold and heavy in my hands. My heart beats as if trying to escape from my chest. Watch the seal, Jack. If we tear it carelessly, they'll meet us at the gangway in New York. I know. I remember everything Rich said. First, the pin under the brass plate. Otherwise, the clamp will crush the book. Fingers search for the small recess under the metal. There it is. I press. A quiet click. The mechanism inside releases something. Now the locks. 2 chubs, standard. I insert the pick into the first. Turn. Another turn. The lock gives with a quiet click. Second lock. Same movement. I feel each pin inside, like a surgeon feels a scalpel. Click. Open it, Max whispers. I lift the lid, and time stops. On black velvet lies Omar Khayyam. This isn't a book. This is a jewelry explosion. 3 peacocks made of gold thread look at me with their ruby eyes, tails spread with hundreds of emeralds, each burning with green fire, even in the dim light. The gold is so fine it seems the peacocks are alive, about to fly away. My God, Max exhales. I take out the jeweler's loop. Need to be sure. Need to know we're not risking our lives for a fake. I lean over the central ruby. Magnification. And I see no inclusions. The crystal is pure as a drop of blood. Pigeon's blood from Mogok, the rarest type. One such stone costs as much as a house in London. The emeralds, Colombian, old cut, Indian school. Each stone selected individually. There are over 1,000 stones here, Max, I whisper. Each one, a lord's annual income. I touch the cover. The leather is soft as silk, but underneath, a rigid frame of silver plates. This isn't a book. This is a bullion in the form of a book. Take it out, Max says. Quickly. I carefully take the Omar with both hands. It's heavy, so heavy that my hands immediately feel the strain. I take out the dummy from the sack, wrapped in the same burlap. Place it where the real book was. The weight is almost the same. Now the seal. I take out the fake. An exact copy, made by Weinwright. The wax is still soft. Need to act fast. Max holds the lantern so the light falls exactly on the seal. I press. The imprint sets perfectly. Done, I whisper. Professionals leave beautifully. If someone survives and finds this box in New York, they'll see an intact seal. Max is already wrapping the real Omar in burlap. And suddenly, footsteps. Click, click, click. Someone's coming down the corridor. Max instantly covers the lantern with his palm. Darkness. We freeze. I hear Max holding his breath, hear his pocket watch ticking. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Each heartbeat echoes in my ears like a blacksmith's hammer. A strip of light cuts through the darkness. It's a clerk with a portable lamp. He's walking our aisle. One glance to the right, and he'll see the open box number 405. I press the Omar to my chest. Feel the sharp edges of rubies pressing through the burlap. The clerk stops. I hear his breathing. He's 2 steps from us. And suddenly, impact. It's not a sound. It's a sensation. The ship shudders, as if stumbling over something enormous. A dull, visceral groan of metal spreads through the decks. The clerk staggers, grabs the shelf. Those stokers again, he mutters, always blowing something up down there. He stands another moment, listening, then turns and walks back. Click, click, click. The light recedes. He's gone. Max exhales heavily. That was That was the iceberg, he whispers. Jack, we just hit the iceberg. I hear a new sound, thin hissing whistle. It's air escaping from damaged compartments, displaced by water. We need to go, I say, right now. I close the box, check the seal one last time. Perfect. No one will notice the substitution. We grab the Omar and run to the stairs. Behind us, in the darkness of the mail hold, water begins to seep from under the door crack. Black, oily, cold. It slowly floods the floor, swallows the shadows, and approaches the box with the dummy inside. We slammed the door of cabin B-52 behind us. For a second, nothing happened. The cabin smelled the same as it had an hour earlier: cologne, tobacco, polished wood. The ordinary smell of first class. The kind of smell that assumes tomorrow will come. I placed the Great Omar on the bed. Under the electric lamp, the book looked unreal, too alive. Gold thread caught the light. Rubies stared back at me, like eyes that knew exactly where they were. Max leaned against the door, breathing hard. We can't carry it whole, he said. They'll search the boats. If anyone feels this under your coat, we're finished. I knew he was right. The book wasn't made to be hidden. It was made to be seen, to be admired, to sit behind glass while men whispered prices. You want to cut it, I said. I want to live. The ship gave a low shudder, deeper than before. Not an impact, a warning. I took the scalpel from my kit. The blade was thin, clean, too clean for what I was about to do. For a moment, I hesitated. 2 years of work. Sangorski's hands. Gold stitched thread by thread. Stones chosen one by one. A book that had survived everything, except the people who wanted it. Jack, Max said. Now. I pressed the blade into the leather. The sound was wrong, dry, final. The goatskin split. The gold thread gave way, not dramatically, just a soft tearing sound, like fabric that knows it won't be repaired. Under the leather was the frame. Silver plates. Cold. Practical. That was the moment the book stopped pretending to be a book. I worked fast. Small stones came loose first. Heat. A twist. They fell into my palm like seeds. Green. Red. Purple. Too many to count. Max swept them into chamois pouches without looking. Don't slow down, he said. The larger stones resisted. I pushed from below, just as Rich had said. Carefully at first, then faster. A ruby came free and dropped into my hand. Heavy, warm from my skin. Perfect. It should have gone into a museum. It went into a pouch. The ship tilted again. This time, enough that a glass slid off the table and shattered on the floor. Water's coming up, Max said. We don't have time for precision. He grabbed the edge of the cover and tore. Gold threads snapped. Emeralds scattered across the bed, rolled onto the carpet, bounced under the dresser. I stopped being careful. The scalpel cut deeper. I ripped away sections of the peacock tails, felt the metal bend in my hands. The masterpiece collapsed faster once we treated it like an object instead of an idea. The pages lay untouched. Khayyam's words stared up at us, calm, indifferent. Poetry survives. Gold doesn't. Within minutes, the book was gone. Not stolen, not hidden, destroyed. What lay on the bed was a carcass. Torn leather, bent silver, paper stripped of its skin. Max divided the stones. 3 for you, 3 for me. Even weight. I tied the pouches under my shirt, immediately felt the pull, each step heavier than the last. If we end up in the water, I said, this will kill us. Only if we stop moving. I looked once more at what remained of the Great Omar. It would be found, eventually, or not. Either way, the story would be simple. The book went down with the ship. We stepped into the corridor. The carpet was wet. Cold water crept toward us, slow and patient. The ship was dying properly now. Behind us, in cabin B-52, lay the shell of the most expensive book ever made. Under our clothes, tied to our bodies, was what it had become. We moved toward the stairs, upward, before the weight decided for us. A deck. It's no longer quiet here. People run, push, scream. Women in nightgowns over evening dresses, men in jackets thrown over bare bodies. Someone drags suitcases, children. Officers with whistles try to create a semblance of order, but it's like trying to stop an avalanche with words. Rockets shoot into the sky with a hiss, burst with cold white sparks over the black ocean. This is a signal of disaster. SOS without words. Max and I push through to the rail. The pouches with stones under my shirt beat against my ribs with each step. Heavy, too heavy. I feel them pulling down, as if someone's attaching lead weights to my belt. Each step. A quiet ring. Rubies and emeralds clink against each other through the chamois. Lifeboat number 6. Max points. Less people there. We approach closer. But at the gangway stands Officer Lightoller with a revolver in his hand. His face, stone. Women and children only, he shouts. Men, back. Back. There aren't enough boats for everyone. A crowd of women pushes toward the gangway. Someone cries. Someone is silent, pressing empty cradles to themselves. I watch as the lifeboat slowly fills. There's still room, plenty of room, but the officer is unyielding. We need to get through, Max whispers. Other side, lifeboat 13, more panic there, weaker control. We turn, push through the crowd. Pouches beat against my sides. I press my elbow tighter to my ribs, trying to hide this ringing. Suddenly, a hand on my shoulder, strong, firm. I flinch. My hand reaches for the knife behind my boot. Sir, you forgot your life vest. It's the clerk, the same one from the mail hold. His face covered in soot, shirt unbuttoned, eyes wide with terror. He looks at my jacket, at how it bulges unnaturally on the sides. For a moment, I see his gaze slide over my chest. He notices something wrong. My heart stops. Max steps forward, blocking me. Thank you, friend. His voice is calm. We were just going for them. Hang in there. They say the Carpathia is close. The clerk nods, looks at me again, then disappears into the crowd. That was too close. I exhale. If we don't get in a lifeboat now, Max says, these rubies will become our tombstones. We approach lifeboat number 13. There really is more chaos here. The officer shouts something, but he can't be heard. Sailors try to lower the boat, but it's stuck. One of the ropes jammed. Now or never, Max whispers. The ship shudders again. The stern begins to rise, slowly but inexorably. The deck under our feet tilts steeper and steeper. Somewhere below, in the depths of the Titanic, boilers tear from their mounts. The rumble is like a building falling. People begin sliding across the deck. Someone screams. Someone is silent, clinging to the railings. Lifeboat 13 finally begins to descend. It's half empty. There's room. We jump, I say. With this stone? We'll go to the bottom in a second. I look at the railing, at the lifeboat moving away. at the ocean below. Black, cold, indifferent. Either we jump and risk it, or we stand here and definitely die. Max looks at me. For a moment, I see fear in his eyes. Real, pure fear. Then he nods. We vault over the railing at the same moment the Titanic begins its final list. This is a flight into the abyss. Air whistles in my ears. Time stretches. I see stars overhead, black water below, the white strip of the lifeboat's side. Impact. The cold is such that it takes my breath away, like thousands of needles simultaneously piercing my skin. Water enters my mouth, my nose, burns my eyes. The stones pull down. I feel the belt becoming heavier, the pouches turning into an anchor. The darkness of the ocean opens its maw, tries to swallow me. I kick desperately. My hands search for something to grab onto. One pouch comes untied. I feel it sliding from my belt. Emeralds. Colombian emeralds. The purest, most expensive. They disappear into the darkness. The ocean takes its share of the Great Omar. But now, I'm lighter. I throw my hand up. Kick harder. I surface. Air slams into my lungs like a blow. I gulp breath after breath, cough, spit salty water. Nearby, the side of the lifeboat. Max is already clinging to the gunwale, his face blue with cold. "Hand!" someone shouts from the boat. A strong hand grabs me by the collar of my tuxedo, yanks upward. I brace my feet against the side, pull, another yank, and I fall onto the bottom of the lifeboat. On benches, on feet, on someone's skirts. I lie there, breathing hard. Water pours from me in puddles. My hands tremble. I feel under my vest for the remains of our prize. The pouches are still there, wet, cold, but there. Part of the stones went to the bottom. The ocean took its due after all. Max falls next to me, spits out water. Did we make it?" he rasps. I look up. Above us, like a black mountain, rises the hull of the Titanic, the stern already vertical. Lights flicker one last time and go out. And then, silence. Not real silence. Worse. Silence filled with the screams of hundreds of people in the water. We row into the darkness. Sailors row heavily, silently. I press my hand to my chest. Feel through the wet fabric of my tuxedo a quiet ring. Rubies. We're alive. We survived. But the price. I look back, where a minute ago was the Titanic. Now there's only darkness, and thousands of voices calling for help. New York met us with rain. The Carpathia docked slowly. People with umbrellas stood on the pier. Some searched for familiar faces. Some just watched. We descended with the other survivors. Max in someone else's coat. Me in a sweater they gave me on board. Our tuxedos stayed in the Atlantic. Under our clothes, the pouches. Wet, cold, heavy. No one checked. We didn't look suspicious. We looked like survivors. The newspapers wrote a lot. The New York Times reported the dead, the ship, the losses. At the bottom of the page, I found a brief note. Among the missing items, the unique binding, The Great Omar, work of Francis Sangorsky. The book is considered irretrievably lost. I folded the newspaper. Max stood by the window, looking at the wet street. "They think it's at the bottom," he said. "Yes," I replied. I untied the chamois bundle. The stones spilled onto the white sheet. Without the binding in gold, they meant nothing anymore. Just weight, shape, and cold price. "There's enough here to never go back to locks," I said. Max sat on the edge of the bed. But the book will never be a book again. I nodded. That night, when the Titanic disappeared into the water, the ocean was full of voices. We sat in the lifeboat and listened. Could we have done differently? I don't know. I only know what we did. On the table stood a glass of water. I took one small ruby and dropped it in. The stone settled to the bottom. The water barely trembled. I looked at my reflection in the glass. The perfect heist always has a false bottom, I said. Max said nothing. We left the hotel that morning. 2 men in new coats, of no interest to anyone. Somewhere at the bottom of the ocean, in an oak box with an undamaged seal, lay a dummy. When they find it, there will be a book. Destroyed. Dead. But a book. And the real Great Omar disappeared that night. Not in the ocean, in cabin B-52, disassembled, scattered across the world, transformed into weight. Sometimes when it rains, I think I can smell leather. The stones are silent, and that's enough.